They were left to die. 8 innocent souls poisoned, broken, abandoned on a dirt road like trash. No food, no water, just pain and silence. And no one stopped until he did. A former U.S. Marine, trained for war, now face to face with a battlefield he never expected. Dying dogs. What happened next will make you cry and believe in miracles again. Before we start, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you believe in second chances, if you believe animals deserve love, not pain, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear will stay with you forever. A subscribe is equal with a donation. He wasn't looking to be a hero. He wasn't looking for anything, really. Jake Thompson had left the battlefield years ago, but the battlefield had never left him. After serving 2 tours in Afghanistan as a U.S. Marine, he returned home different. The medals on his shelf didn't bring peace. The nights were long, the silence louder than any explosion he'd ever heard. So he moved to the edge of a small town in rural Texas, where no one asked questions, where the land was wide and the only sounds were the rustling trees and the distant bark of coyotes. Jake didn't talk much, didn't go to town unless he had to. He found comfort in the routine. Chop wood, fix fences, walk the same path each morning. But that morning, that path wasn't the same. He noticed it the second he turned the corner of the old gravel road near the creek. At first, it looked like trash. Pile of black bags dumped by someone too lazy to go to the landfill. But something felt wrong. The air was still. Then he saw it. A paw, a large, trembling paw poking out from one of the bags. Jake froze. His training kicked. He approached slowly, heart pounding. As he got closer, the smell hit him. Chemical, sharp, unnatural. He reached down, and the moment his hand touched the bag, it moved. A soft whimper, barely audible. Jake ripped the bag open. Inside was a German shepherd, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolling back, body convulsing. Poison. He dropped to his knees and looked around. There were more bags. 1, 2, 3, 8 in total. Jake tore through them one by one, his heart breaking with every whimper, every flicker of breath. Some were unconscious. One looked already gone. Another barked weakly, then collapsed. All German shepherds, young, starved, beaten. They were bred for loyalty, but they had been betrayed. Someone had wanted them to die. Jake stood frozen, staring at the aftermath of human cruelty. 8 broken dogs alone in the dirt. He didn't hesitate. He didn't question, because somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "No one left behind." It was the voice of his squad leader, the one who dragged Jake from the rubble and cobble, the one who didn't make it. Jake stood. He wasn't leaving anyone here. His truck roared to life. He drove faster than he had in years, one hand on the wheel, the other holding a limp shepherd pup wrapped in his coat. The vet clinic was 22 miles away. Every bump on the road felt like a hammer to the ribs. Every second counted. He burst through the clinic doors covered in dirt and panic. The receptionist jumped. "Help, please. Poisoned dogs. 8 of my truck. Hurry." Dr. Lily Morgan, a woman in her 40s with years of experience and nerves of steel, didn't ask questions. She took one look in Jake's eyes and ran outside. They worked 4 hours flushing stomachs, administering activated charcoal, injections for drips, oxygen. Jake didn't leave their side. He paced. He prayed. He begged. 2 didn't make it. The youngest pair, barely a few months old. Jake didn't speak. He just held. He hadn't cried in 10 years. But that day he did. 6 survived barely. Dr. Morgan looked at him exhausted. They need care. Days of it. Constant monitoring. Antibiotics. Fluids. This is going to be a fight. Jake nodded. I'll do it. She blinked. You're going to take care of 6 poisoned, traumatized German shepherds. He didn't hesitate. Yes. Do you even have space, supplies, money? He shrugged. I have space. I'll figure out the rest. That night, Jake turned his quiet cabin into a war zone. Towels, blankets, water bowls. He didn't sleep. He checked on each dog every hour. He named them. The female with the deep, wound across her leg, Hope. The quiet, one with one ear missing, Ghost. The fiercest male who still barked while vomiting, Bravo. The oldest one with tired eyes, Sarge. The shy one who refused to look up, Luna. And the one who kept crawling toward him, Scout. Each name carried meaning from his past, from his brothers in arms. In those first 48 hours, Jake didn't eat. He didn't speak. He only cared for them. Hope tried to stand. Ghost began wagging his tail when Jake walked by. Sarge growled at anyone but Jake. Protective, alert. Luna finally drank water on her. It was progress. Tiny, fragile, but real. Then the nightmare started. Not Jake's. The dog's whimpers in the night. Shaking. Hiding under furniture. One night, Ghost bit Jake by accident, thinking he was being attacked. Jake didn't flinch. He didn't yell. He just sat on the floor and waited until Ghost crawled into his lap, whimpering. Jake whispered, "It's okay. I get it. I see. You." Because he did understand. The fear, the flashbacks, the helplessness. He knew exactly what they were going through. The cabin that once echoed with silence now echoed with life. Scratching, paws, barking, laughter. Jake's laughter, something even he hadn't heard in years. Neighbors started hearing stories. The vet posted a picture on Facebook of Jake surrounded by the 6 recovering shepherds. It went viral. Marine rescues poisoned German shepherds. War veteran becomes guardian. Angel to abused dogs. From soldier to savior. Jake didn't care about the headlines. He cared that Bravo finally ate a full meal. That Luna wagged her tail. That Scout barked when he saw him. And just like that, the man who came back from war thinking he had nothing left to give, discovered that saving them was what saved him. The mornings came early now, not because Jake set an alarm but because 6 wounded souls depended on him to survive. And somehow, that responsibility started to stitch something inside of him that had been broken for years. But just as their wounds began to heal, the ghosts of the past came crawling back. Not just for Jake, but for the dogs too. It started with Bravo, the strongest of the 6, the protector. But one morning, Jake found him cowering in the corner, shaking uncontrollably, teeth bared in. Panic at nothing. There was no sound, no threat, just memories. Invisible to everyone except those who had lived through the pain. Jake didn't try to force anything. He just laid down beside Bravo, whispering softly, "It's just us. You're safe. I promise you're safe." Bravo didn't move. But Jake stayed there. 4 hours until the shaking stopped. He knew what it was. He'd been there before. Jake had a nightmare that night. He was back in Afghanistan, trapped in a collapsed building after an IED exploded. Beneath his convoy, he could still hear the screaming of his team, still smell the burning, still feel the weight of concrete on his chest. But this time, when he woke up gasping in the dark, he wasn't alone. Scout had climbed onto his bed, not barking, not afraid, just there, watching him. Jake blinked, tears in his. "Guess we both get haunted, huh?" And the following days, Jake began noticing things he hadn't before. Luna refused to walk past any door that slammed. Ghost would growl any time someone in a baseball cap came near. Hope would freeze at the sight of a metal chain. These weren't just quirks. These were memories. Memories of pain, of abuse, of torture. And then came the questions. Who did this? Who poisons 8 purebred German shepherds? Who bags them like garbage and dumps them on a back road to die? Jake's marine instinct kicked in. He wanted justice, but he didn't want revenge for himself. He wanted it for He started asking around quietly. Local vets, animal control, shelters. And slowly a horrifying pattern emerged. Over the past year, German shepherds were being bred illegally in a backyard operation nearby. A puppy mill hidden, unregistered, used for cash, abused when they didn't sell, and when the operation fell apart, they dumped the dogs. All of them. Jake's fists clenched when he heard the story. But what shattered him was realizing something worse. These dogs weren't just victims of abuse. They had trusted someone, loved someone, and, in return, they were betrayed. Marine, betrayal is the deepest wound. Jake couldn't understand how someone could look into those loyal eyes and see something disposable. He made a silent vow. You'll never be discarded again. Days turned into weeks. Hope's leg began to heal. Ghost stopped growling at every noise. Sarge would nudge Jake's hand every morning like a ritual. And something beautiful happened. The community, inspired by Jake's viral story, started showing up. People brought food, blankets, money, even handmade dog beds with their names stitched in. A woman from Dallas drove 3 hours just to hug Jake and leave behind collars engraved with each dog's name. Retired K-9 officer sent training equipment. A child mailed a letter. Dear Jake, thank you for saving the dogs. Wanna be like you when I grow up. Love, Mia. Age 8. Jake cried when he read. He didn't feel like a hero, but for the first time in years, he felt seen. One night, during a thunderstorm, all 6 dogs huddled around Jake's bed. Every flash of lightning sent Ghost under the blanket. Luna wed until Jake whispered to her. Scout lay his head across Jake's chest, steady and warm. And Jake realized something. They weren't just healing because of him. He was healing because of them. They had brought him back from a place no one else could. From silence, from isolation, from a war that never really ended. But fate wasn't done testing them. One afternoon, while training the dogs in the yard, Jake noticed Hope stumble. Not the kind of stumble from a weak leg, something else. She coughed, then again, then collapsed. Jake rushed her to the vet. Blood work, x-rays, tests. Dr. Morgan came into the room. Her eyes heavy. She's relapsing. There's internal damage we didn't see before. Liver failure from the poisoning. It's catching up now. Jake's knees went weak. Hope the first one he found the fighter. The vet continued. We need to start treatment immediately. It'll be intense, expensive, and there's no guarantee. Jake didn't blink. Do whatever it takes. She nodded. You sure? He looked at Hope, lying on the table, her eyes meeting. Still trusting, still fighting. Didn't give up on life, so I won't give up on her. That night, Jake sat alone in the clinic room. Hope was on for her, breathing shallow. He held her paw, whispering, You're not a mistake. You're not garbage. You're family. And no one gets left behind. He stayed with her all night, and just before dawn, she opened her eyes and licked his hand. The hospital lights were dim. The silence was sharp, and for the first time in years, Jake prayed. Not for himself, not for forgiveness, but for one dog, one broken warrior, named Hope. When dawn broke, she was still breathing, weak, fragile, but alive. The vet was shocked. I don't know how she pulled through, Dr. Morgan said, shaking her head. Jake smiled, tears in his eyes. I do. Her name is Hope. Back at the ranch, the other 5 shepherds were restless. Ghost paced by the door. Every hour, Bravo refused to eat. Even Sarge, the tough one, whined in his sleep. Jake had never seen dogs mourn before, but he saw it now and he felt it too. They weren't just 6 rescued dogs anymore. They were a pack, a family. And when one of them was missing, they all were. Jake posted an update online. The post went viral again, but this time it reached someone unexpected. A man named Thomas, an XK9 handler, and Jake's old comrade from the Marines. He called immediately. I saw the post. I'm driving down. Jake hadn't spoken to Thomas in years. They'd lost a lot together, but this time they were about to win something back. Thomas arrived the next day, pulling up in a truck full of gear, training equipment, supplements, toys, and a massive bag of liver support formula. Let's get to work, he said with a grin. Jake hadn't smiled that wide in a long time. For the next few weeks, the ranch transformed. It became a rehabilitation center. Thomas showed Jake how to create K9 obstacle courses in the backyard. They built ramps, tunnels, and sent tracks, not to train the dogs to serve, but to train them to trust again. Scout was the first to take the lead. He mastered the obstacles in a day. Then he began nudging the others toward them. It was like watching trauma unravel. Luna chased her first ball and actually returned it. Ghost stopped flinching every time Jake raised his hand. Sarge let out a playful bark, the first Jake had ever heard. Bravo still struggled. He stood at the edge of the course and just watched. Jake walked over and knelt beside him. You don't have to be strong anymore, he whispered. It's okay to play now. Bravo looked at him and for the first time, he wagged his tail. Meanwhile, Hope's health began to improve. Day by day, hour by hour, she gained weight. Her coat began to shine again. One morning, Jake brought her outside and the entire pack came running. They surrounded her, licking, barking, whining with joy. Jake watched, heart pounding as Scout lowered his head and gently nudged her forward. He took one step, then another, then she ran. Wasn't fast. It wasn't graceful, but it was freedom. It was victory. Jake fell to his knees, sobbing. You're back. You're really back. That moment was caught on camera. Thomas had filmed it and posted it. It went everywhere. Millions watched. Millions cried. And thousands messaged Jake with just one word: hope. Then came the letters. Veterans, abuse survivors, even inmates in prison, all saying the same thing. If those dogs can heal, maybe I can too. Jake sat in his cabin one night reading one of those letters when Thomas walked. You realize what you've built here, right? Jake looked around at the handmade kennels, at the donation boxes, at the new medical supplies that had arrived anonymously, at the dogs now sleeping peacefully by the fireplace. Didn't build it, Jake said quietly. They did, but not everything was behind them. One night, Jake received a knock at the door. It was Officer Reyes, the same deputy who had called him the night he found the poisoned dogs. She looked serious. We found them, she said. The ones who ran the puppy mill. Jake felt his chest tighten. We raided the property. It was worse than we thought. Dozens of animals malnourished, abused. Some didn't make it. Jake clenched his fists. Will they be punished? They're facing charges, but they asked for a plea deal. They claimed the dogs were never in their care, that someone else dumped them. Jake's eyes darkened. They're lying. I know, she replied. But we need testimony, evidence, anything. Jake looked out at the 6 German shepherds sleeping on his porch. He knew what he had to do. The next morning, Jake wrote a statement. He gave pictures, videos, timelines, vet records. He testified publicly for them. He stood in court and told the world what had happened. He wasn't just fighting for dogs. He was fighting for every soul that had ever been thrown away. And when he spoke Hope's name in that courtroom, the judge paused. You named her Hope? The judge asked. Jake nodded. She earned it. The trial made headlines. The abusers were sentenced. The operation was shut down. And Jake became a national symbol of redemption. But he didn't care about fame. He cared about one thing, giving them the life they were always meant to have. 1 month later, something happened that Jake never expected. A foundation offered to sponsor his ranch to turn it into an official sanctuary for abused German shepherds and for veterans healing from PTSD. Jake accepted with one condition: name it after her. And so the House of Hope was born. Place where broken hearts mend, where discarded souls find family, and where 1 man and 8 German shepherds rewrote what it means to be rescued. The wind whispered gently across the fields. It smelled like freedom and healing. Jake stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching 8 German shepherds run through the open ranch. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were symbols. Each one a story, each one a warrior. And behind every scar was a soul that refused to give up. The House of Hope officially opened on a cloudy Friday morning. But inside the barn, turned sanctuary, the energy was electric. Veterans from across the country arrived. Men and women who had seen too much, felt too much, lost too much. Jake greeted each one with a handshake and a German shepherd by his side. "Meet Scout," he said to one man in a wheelchair. He used to flinch at every sound. "Now he's our bravest. This is Luna. She wouldn't let anyone touch her. Now she cuddles like a baby." And then Jake walked over to the last kennel. Inside sat Hope, still quiet, still gentle, but her eyes, they were full of fire. A woman named Michelle stepped forward. A Navy veteran. She had scars, visible and invisible. Jake opened the gate. Hope walked slowly toward her, then stopped. She tilted her head, then, ever so carefully, placed her paw on Michelle's knee. Michelle burst into tears. So did Jake. Over the next few weeks, the House of Hope changed everything. Dogs and veterans healed together. Every howl was heard. Every tear was welcomed. Every scar was honored. People flew in just to meet the 8 shepherds of redemption. Ghost became a therapy dog. Sarge helped with night terrors. Bravo learned to fetch medications. Luna, she became everyone's shadow, but it was Hope who stole every heart. One day, she stood by the flag pole facing the wind and let out a howl, so long and powerful that everyone stopped. It wasn't pain. It wasn't fear. It was freedom. Jake watched her and whispered, "You brought us back, girl." Then something unexpected happened. Local reporter wrote an article titled, "The Marine Who Saved 8 Dogs and Found Own Rescue." That article reached a publisher, then a producer, then Hollywood. They offered Jake a deal, a movie based on his story. First, he laughed. "I'm not an actor," he said. But then he thought about the message, about what people could feel, about how many lives this could touch. He said, "Yes, only if the dogs played themselves." Year later, the film Hope Unleashed premiered at a local theater. The red carpet wasn't for celebrities. It was for heroes with fur. The crowd cried. They clapped, and they stood in silence. When the screen faded to black and showed the real footage of 8 German shepherds running free. Today, the House of Hope is more than a sanctuary. It's a movement. Every month, more abused dogs are brought in. Every month, more veterans find peace. And every week, Jake writes letters back to strangers who say, "I was broken, but then I saw hope." He doesn't call himself a hero. He doesn't want praise. He just wakes up every day, walks the ranch, and whispers to the wind, "Thank you for letting me be there, human." And every time the sun sets behind the hills, you can still see 8 shadows running through the grass. Strong, proud, unstoppable. Because sometimes the most powerful soldiers in the world walk on 4 legs. And sometimes redemption doesn't come in a uniform. Comes with a bark and a second chance. If this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, if it reminded you of the power of second chances, then don't scroll past. Leave a comment below with one word, hope. Let Jake and these dogs know that their story matters. And if you believe more people need to feel this, hit that subscribe button right now. We share real stories like this every week. Stories that remind you that life can begin again. Share this video with Someone who needs to believe again. Because sometimes it only takes one story to change everything. And this was one of them.